Welcome back to The Deep Life. Today we have a special guest with us for interview I'm really excited about with Shane Cuppett, who is a foundation training instructor and coach. And I think this is something that's really important for a lot of people. So we're going to jump right into it. Shane, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. Good to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I think this is going to be a great conversation that people can really learn a lot from. I love the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, Shane, I'm obsessed with your Instagram. The videos that you post are so instructional and so easy to do. The movements and stuff. I mean, Dan and I do them very often. And I feel like this conversation is going to be really beneficial for people because people are sitting all day. People don't have great posture, and everybody complains about back pain, knee pain, and you are an expert in fixing all these things. So let's dive deep into it.
Yeah, thanks guys. And I get a lot out of your workouts too. I love your circuits and how simplified they are. And so I follow your page and I recommend it to a lot of my friends as well. And just to clarify, I'm not an expert.
I don't know.
I'm just a coach that just has some experience that I can share, but I'm far from an expert. I appreciate the kind words though. Thank you.
From the outside looking in, you look pretty much like an expert.
Yeah.
A lot of really good stuff. But why don't we start by, you can just kind of introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know who you are and kind of how you got into training.
Sure. Well, my name is Shane Cuppett. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, the mountains of Western North Carolina. I've been in North Carolina for a long time. I lived in Charlotte for 20 years. Just moved up here a couple years ago to be with my girlfriend, who's now my fiance, who will get married. So that's why I'm up here.
Congratulations.
And Asheville's only 2 hours from Charlotte. It's not that far. It's very beautiful. I have been, a fitness kind of a person, exercise guy since I was 15 years old and, past personal trainer. I kind of cut my teeth in Gold's Gym, worked for Gold's Gym for 10 years in personal training and management. Then I dove into the corrective movement world about 10 years ago as a way to heal my own back. I struggled with a lot of debilitating back pain for several years, and that journey was rough. And we can talk more about that later, but that's how I went into the corrective movement field and kind of got a little bit away from personal training, even though I love it, it's great. But I could now relate to people with back pain and how it affects their life and how it affects their mental being and how it affects the relationships. And it really infiltrates everything if you've ever had to deal with it. And that's also how I discovered foundation training. And that started me on my journey down that path, as well as other postural movement programs that I've been experimenting with. So, I'm just a general coach. I love weight training. I love all kinds of exercise. I've wide boundaries. If it makes you feel good, do it. If it doesn't, don't. I like the education piece. I'm a little bit of an anatomy geek. I love getting into the biomechanics and anatomy of everything. So that always stokes my interest. So I turned 50 last year. So heading into, a whole new decade. And so that's exciting. And, just excited to continue to see where this path, takes me, along with, collaborating with wonderful people like yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like a really cool path that you're starting to see pretty commonly. I know my path is very similar, where it's sort of like go really, really hard in the gym until you beat yourself up too much, and then it's like looking for answers from there. Yeah. And I think that once you do that, you can sort of you have the ability now to carry the torch and light the way for people to get out of pain, which is, I think, such an amazing job that you can do in the world, and great way of being of service.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I found the best way to teach other people is to fix myself.
Yes.
And that's not the only way, of course. You don't have to be a back pain patient and conqueror to help other people. But I feel that there's a connection. As soon as someone comes in and says, I got a herniated disc, got a bulging disc, got sciatic nerve pain, can't get out of it. I'm like, hey, I can relate. I was there for a long time. Let me show you a way to get out of it. And hopefully it'll help you like it helped me. And that's all I do, really.
Yeah, I found myself in a very similar situation. That's probably like 11 or 12 years ago. The same thing, like rushed a workout one day when I was probably a little too stiff and not quite ready. But I was like, I'll just do what I can. Did too much in like a 30-minute workout. Herniated a disc in my back, was in like debilitating pain, had no health insurance. So I was like, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. And I spent about 2 years like hobbling around trying to rebuild myself.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the same way you're saying, like I learned a lot about dealing with back pain, about re-healing back pain. It kind of led me to also discovering a lot of Dr. Goodman's work and the foundation training stuff, which I'm haven't gone nearly as deep as you have. But I remember he put out a YouTube video years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 12-minute circuit. I think it's him. And
it was our Bible.
We did
it
every day for years, and it's amazing.
Oh my gosh. It was incredible.
And miserable. And you're it's a 12-minute stretch where you're shaking and sweating and hurts.
Video, a little history on that video, not to interrupt you, but that 12-minute video is very famous now. And I saw it too. And it's quite old. It was, the guys in the video, Peter Park, who was Eric's collaborator back then, who was a high profile, very skilled personal trainer in Santa Barbara. And then also Brian is the other guy who used to be on the certification team and is an amazing mover. And that workout was designed to be a workout for Lance Armstrong.
Oh,
who
wow.
was the coach of back then. And if you hear in there when you turn the hands upside down and you do the pulses, you can hear him say, I think Lance will really like this one. But anyway, it just blew up into this massive video, and I discovered it too. And a lot of the movements in there have been modified to be a little bit safer than they are, but it's still a wonderful video and workout. And to be perfectly honest and frank, I still today have a hard time making it to the end of that video.
Yeah.
It really is hard. Yeah.
You gotta brace yourself.
Yeah, it's great though. It's great. I just caution people that if you are in acute pain and you're just coming out of an acute injury like a bulging or herniated disc, that might not be the video to jump into right away. You might want to wait until your body's healed up a little bit, because there is some twisty spinal and flexion movements in there and extension movements that could aggravate it. But that's the only advice I would give people for that. Do it, but just be safe with it.
Good to know.
Yeah, I do. I like that. Let's just kind of lean into foundation training from there then. I think you've got so much knowledge in this. Like, I guess for people that don't understand, have never heard of it, maybe you start just explaining what foundation training is and then go from there.
Okay, yeah. So I discovered foundation training back in 2012 after several years of dealing with my own back. And, probably like yourself, Dan, and probably like a lot of young guys in their 20s, I was, let's see how big and strong I can get, right? And lifting since I was 15, got out of college, went to work for Gold's Gym and lived in that place 7 days a week. And I decided to adopt. I was into bodybuilding at the time. Back in the 90s, man, there was no CrossFit. There was no mobility work. There was no FRC. It was just bodybuilding, powerlifting, and aerobics.
Did you eat or just like bodybuilding workouts?
Yeah. So my dad, that's how I discovered weight training a long time ago. So I decided to adopt, there's a Mr. Olympia back then called Dorian Yates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love Dorian.
And I was like, yeah, that guy's awesome. So I decided to do his workout, which was super intense, low volume, high intensity training, 1 to 2 sets to failure, super heavy, rest a week. Anyway, I did that program and got really big and really strong. I got up to about 230 pounds and was lifting all these heavy weights. And next thing I know, my back started hurting. And then it wouldn't stop hurting. And now I'm seeing chiropractors, and now I'm modifying my workouts, and I can no longer work out heavy. And that started the whole process of trying to learn how I was breaking down and why I couldn't heal myself, even though I went to school and studied sports medicine and was an athletic trainer and personal trained all kinds of people. But here I was broken. So after a few years of trying to find out the solution myself, I saw a physical therapist. They helped. I tried some Egoscue exercises. They helped. McKenzie helped. But the pain kept coming back. and the chronic pain turned into bulging discs. And if you ever look at my Instagram and you see my x-ray, I have this gnarly scoliosis in my lumbar spine and what's called a lateral athesis. So lateral is the same thing as what you think. It means the vertebrae are sliding laterally off each other. And I've got this lateral athesis at my L3, L4, and it's sitting like that, right in the middle of that curve.
Gosh.
So I could see what was happening, but I didn't know how to fix it. And it got to the point where I was in so much pain, anything I did caused my discs to bulge. I was going through probably, 20 to 30 hydrocodone pills at the time. I was taking a couple Celebrex every night before I went to bed. I was taking prednisone in the winter. I mean, there was no end. I couldn't fix myself. And I eventually went to go see a spine surgeon.
Oh, wow.
Jackson in Charlotte in December of 2012. I remember sitting in front of him, and luckily he was a young doctor. And he was like, yeah, we can, shoot steroids in there and mask the pain. And he's like, my number one concern is that shifting vertebrae. And he's like, we got to stabilize that. And if you don't stabilize that, we're going to have to fuse it because your spinal cord's in there, right? You can't mess with that.
Yeah.
But before we did anything, he was like, I want you to try this out. And he slapped down a book in front of me, and it was Dr. Goodman's very first foundation training book, which came out that year. Oh. And I was like, yeah. I've tried all the postural stuff. I did all this stuff. And he's like, look, just give it a shot. I like it. It's helped out some of my patients. Come back in 30 days and we'll talk about it if you're still in pain. So I went home. He actually gave me the book.
Wow.
So I went home and I still have it. Opened it up, read through it. And like Eric tends to do, Dr. Goodman, if you've ever read his books, he has a very great way of conveying very detailed anatomical, biomechanical information in a very simplified way that can make you understand it. So I was all of a sudden reading through and I was like, this sounds great. And I started doing the very first exercises, the founder and all of those exercises way back then. And I could instantly start to feel recruitment of those deep paraspinal muscles that I didn't know how to recruit on my own. You can't get them in the gym. You don't want to do that with deadlifts and squats when you have a back bulging disc. And I started doing those exercises. And within the first few days, I could instantly tell that I was waking up in the morning with a little bit less pain. Week 2, little bit less pain. And then over the period of about a month, almost 6 weeks, I got myself out of chronic pain from 100% to 0.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And all I was doing was practicing the basic exercises in that book twice a day, never missed a day, wasn't working out in the gym. I couldn't. Mm-hmm. And the chronic pain just started to go away and it never came back. And I felt like I was getting stable. And it was just a slow, steady trend of getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Mm-hmm. And after about two months of doing that, I noticed that they were holding a certification. So then I flew out to LA in 2013 and got my level 1 certification, which I think was the second or third one that they held. And I was blown away by the work. And what really stood out to me with foundation training at the time, and what I tell people today, what separates it? What's the difference? There's so much information on Instagram now. What do I do? Why does foundation training, why is it different? It's a whole body approach that's really, in my opinion, that really changed my course. Many other postural movement programs are very compartmentalized and isolated. You know, they work on the hip, they work on the ankle, they work on the shoulder blades. Foundation training works on your entire system, from the base of your skull to your grip strength all the way down to your arches. And it really gets your muscular chains working like they're designed to work. Coordinated movement among multiple joints. And that was really the key. And even though you may have a bad back, and I shouldn't say bad back, maybe an injured back, or maybe you have hip pain, or maybe you have neck pain, whatever's going on, we're still going to treat the whole body. Whole body work makes the whole body stronger. And it was just amazing that thought process, I never really thought about that before. Bodybuilding, very compartmentalized. That was my mind, right? Athletic training, working with, the basketball team in a training room, treating injuries and taking them through the rehab protocols, very compartmentalized. So this was really like the first time that I experienced this whole body approach. And it was really mind opening to me. It really opened me up to a different perspective. And so I dove in that rabbit hole and actually became one of their assistant instructors for 3 years. Whenever they would come to the East Coast, New York City, Florida, Atlanta, I would help out. I wasn't one of the master main instructors. I was just an assistant instructor at the certs, but that gave me a great opportunity to actually teach other people how to teach the work one-on-one with Eric, work one-on-one with the master instructors. And it was a great experience, and I've always been grateful for that. And I've been teaching foundation training ever since. It has a big emphasis on posterior chain strength, but in a non-traditional way, not lifting, but leveraging your own body weight. Because, the way I look at it is if you can't manage your own body weight, you don't have any business in the gym lifting external weights, right?
Completely agree.
So this whole body approach starts with the posterior chain and getting that strong and integrated again. But we work on all of the chains, the anterior chain, the spiral line, the arm lines. We try to pull as many muscles as possible into any given movement. And that's why pictures and videos don't do the work justice, because you can't really feel what's happening with your body from your arches to your groin, to your back, to the upper traps, into your arms. Everything is working. And it's like an essential oil. Like one drop goes a long way with that work. And
I like that analogy.
And you've ever been instructed by a certified instructor, I mean, usually, a 30-minute class, I mean, you're walking out, you're like shaking like a bowl of Jello, and you have no idea why.
Yeah.
But it's all about getting the proper tissues supporting you properly, stabilizing muscles are stabilizing, big movements are moving you, working on your innate movement patterns that we all must do, like a basic hip hinge, which is, we all have to have that. Squat patterns, hinging patterns, spiraling patterns, and connecting those muscular chains. And what I always like to say in a lot of my posts is the more muscles that you have supporting you, the less burden your joints have to bear.
Yeah, it's just
so it's like a tug of war. If I got 10 people on this side pulling, and I got 2 people on this side pulling, who's going to win? This side. It's kind of that analogy. Get as many muscles as you can working, and that translates directly to the weight room. So now you take this whole body muscular chain connective approach with a strong posterior chain. Now your body is less likely to break down in the gym. And a lot of the stuff we work on translates into weight training, into kettlebell work, into a lot of the stuff the guys that you teach. So we train consciously in isometric and eccentric movements, looks like yoga a little bit, so that your body can respond subconsciously. Right?
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of it. But it is a pain management, chronic pain protocol. That's where it starts. That's where I think the meat and potatoes of foundation training is to help get you out of pain. But then once you're out of pain, you can then now use it to help accessorize and supplement pretty much everything that you do. And that's the reason why it's called foundation training. It really resets your foundation of how your body supports and moves itself. And I'll finish by just saying that, I've always felt how you support yourself posturally determines and governs how you move yourself muscularly. So I am in the camp that posture matters. It's not the end all be all, but it is the driver of the bus, and everything and every exercise you do is sitting behind you. And without that driver, everything else can break down. And it's not a guarantee you won't hurt yourself, but it's just trying to give you a safety net so that you have less chance of hurting yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great description.
Oh my gosh.
There. But I love that. I think you are so lucky to have found a surgeon who pointed you in that direction. I think so often when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like he was able to think outside the box and not go in there and do surgery right away.
Yeah.
Which really led down a path of, passion and kind of almost like finding your calling. But I love that way you're describing, foundation training. It's like making those connections all throughout your body, because nothing in the body, whether you're talking muscles or organs or even your thoughts, like affects just one thing, and nothing is compartmentalized.
Everything is everything.
Yeah, everything is everything. So learning how to connect those.
Exactly. So you nailed it. If I had a different doctor, and I wasn't in a good mindset at that point. I was at the point where like I'm ready to do anything, dudes. My relationship sucks. My back hurts. I can't lift. I can't golf. I can't walk. I can't play with my dog. It's debilitating mentally when you have chronic pain like that. And if that doctor would have said, "Hey, let me go ahead and shoot you up with a cortisone shot," I'd have probably went, "Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah.
But right back deadlifting the next week.
And I never went back. I never had to go back. I sent him an email thanking him, and I've referred a lot of patients or clients his way. And I was like, "Thank you so much. That was really like the turning point that I needed to, heal myself and set me down a pathway that I now, healed myself. And then I used those tools that I learned to help other people heal themselves. I don't heal them.
Yeah.
They heal themselves.
I love that. It's such an alignment with our teachings too. We're just, your teachers and coaches. You can give us the credit, but it's really you. It's you healing your own body. We're just instructing you on the best ways to do it, and that's so empowering.
Yes, autonomy.
Yeah.
Another thing that Dr. Goodman preaches, especially early on, was this autonomy, that your movement is your responsibility. I can show you, but you have to do the work.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's always a challenge as coaches, right? You say, I can show you how to do it. I know the path to make you better, but you have to put the effort in and meet me halfway. And if you can't meet me halfway, it's like, I can't really help you. And that's frustrating as coaches, right?
Oh gosh,
sure.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, it's the same with everything. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like you have to take responsibility for your own health, your own body, your own thoughts, all of it.
Yeah. And back to foundation training, it's one way. It's not the only way.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I can count on probably one hand in 9 years I've been teaching it where people really committed to it. And it didn't help them.
Sure.
It happens. I mean, not often, but it happens. And sometimes, it just doesn't work. Sometimes other things don't work. So it's not the only thing that you do. It's just, I always use these funny analogies. It's like a bicycle tire with spokes. I kind of use it as the hub, but there's a lot of spokes that go in that wheel.
Sure.
And we have to explore other things. Maybe yoga is great for you. Maybe Pilates, you need that. Maybe you need to do some FRC. Maybe you need some neurological work. Maybe you need to clean up your nutrition along with it. There's so many factors that go into pain. But at the same time, we also have to understand that posture and biomechanics is an important component that needs to be addressed. It's not the only thing, but it's an important thing. And a lot of people, modern lifestyles are breaking us down.
Yes.
A drop in a bucket. It's an accumulation. It's not this one thing. It's rarely one thing. I fell off a ladder and I broke my sacrum. That rarely happens. It's no, I bent over to pick up my pen and my disc blew out. Well, it wasn't the pen that did that or that bend over. It was an accumulation of poor movement, compression into certain areas where your system can't adequately disperse that force away from that area, and just something goes. And so, it's all about pattern. And I when I talk about foundation training, I use the word pattern re-education. That's really what it is. It's It's neurological, neuromuscular re-education of basic patterns in your body, getting you back to where you were before you started compressing into yourself with modern lifestyle habits. And it works for a lot of people.
Yeah, actually, I remember reading one of your Instagram posts. You used the quote, breaking the patterns that are breaking you. And that jumped out to me. I love it. I use that all the time now. Such a great quote. But it's like, I think that's exactly what it is.
I can't take credit for that quote. That's a quote from Eric from one of the early certifications I had. And it's one of those things I'm in the back and I'm like, oh,
yeah, circling that in your notebook.
But that's Eric's quote from early on in the FT days back in 2012, 13. And it really resonated, and I still use it, is that the only way to get out of a bad pattern is to replace it with a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just like wish it away. You can't just in one day get rid of it. It's an accumulation that built up, and you have to unwind it with something else.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of different things that you can use to do that.
Of course.
But foundation training is one tool that'll help you with that whole body approach, with that posterior chain strength, with that decompression breath. It's very powerful work, and it helps a lot. It fixes, it's not a fix all, but it is a fix a lot.
Yes.
Definitely.
Another one of Dr. Goodman's quotes that I like to use. And I've had mostly success teaching this to people. Not a guarantee, but mostly success. And most of the people I work with are struggling. I mean, I mainly work with the back pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, chronic pain clientele. And every now and then I'll get a strength person, and it helps them, but it's really the pain population that really benefits from this work a lot. It doesn't matter. I've worked with 14-year-olds. I've taught in retirement. I taught classes at a retirement community in Charlotte and had 90-year-olds in there doing it.
Wow.
Everybody can work on their postural patterns their entire life.
Sure.
Yeah, that's why I thought I was so excited for this conversation, because first I just want to listen to you talk about this. I love this conversation. I love hearing it. But second, I think so many other people can benefit from this, and everybody is sitting at a computer all day. Everybody's going from one chair to the next. Everybody's doing damage. And then even like you feel bad sometimes, trying to do the right thing, and they're going to the gym and trying to offset, 8 to 10 hours in a chair by doing, a workout. And then you're talking so much about posture. We say all the time, the point of an exercise is never to lift the weight up and down. It's to master different positions and to be able to control how your body's moving and where it's moving. And I think that foundation training definitely gives you those tools to sort of combine, like I said, make connections in different parts of your body, own different positions. And then as you own that position, then you can load it up and get stronger and stronger. So this is going to help everybody. If you're even if you don't want to lift any weights, this is something you can do 15, 20 minutes a day and literally change your life. And then if you want to get stronger, the founder literally translates directly into a deadlift. You learn so much about your body that once you're picking up weight, the tension's already there. Like I said, the mastering of the positions is already there. So I love this.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
Founder exercise, when you break it down, it's basically like an RDL, hinge, arms extended. But then the special ingredients come in of Eric's work, which is pelvic anchoring. What's that? So this is a base of support that we provide below the pelvis through the adductors, starting with the iliacus, down through the adductors, the posterior tib, and into the arches. Literally, the muscles that you would use, I use like you're riding a horse and you don't have reins, you got to use these muscles. Because these adductors attach at the bottom of the pelvis, called your pubic symphysis, which are your sit bones. Those are little eye hooks, right? Those adductors attach, and when they contract, they have this ability to stabilize the pelvis from below. So when you add the anchor, the arches, the shin muscles, the adductors, the deep front line in anatomy trains, which is all the abdominal tissues. Now we're starting to give that pelvis a good base of support from below, which most people don't have. Then once we have that, we add the hinge, and that basic hinge basically tensions the posterior chain from your heels to your neck, like a bow and arrow. Another one of these analogies I use to teach classes, if I got a bow and arrow and I'm doing this, well, that drawstring is your posterior chain. Here's your head, here's your heels. The trigger is your hips. And as I pull that trigger straight back, the muscles from your pelvis to your head and from your pelvis to your feet have now been tensioned eccentrically. Not stretched, loaded. Neurological, there's a contraction happening there, just like that tension on that drawstring. You can feel it. That's building elastic potential. That's building length, strength through the whole posterior chain, because you're using your fulcrum like you're designed to use it.
Yes.
Strengthening everything above and below, building elastic potential. So when it's time, boom, you let that trick, boom. And now the muscles contract to stand you up, to lift something up, right? So that's exactly what that founder does, is we teach you how to use your hips as your fulcrum. That's the bow and arrow, right? My arches are working, my adductors are working, my hamstrings are working. And then once we get you into that hinged position, you're anchored from below, the pelvis is supported. That helps the lumbar spine give support because the adductors have an intimate relationship with that low back. Now we add the decompression breath. And the decompression breath is this 360-degree expansion of your rib cage, top to bottom, side to side, front to back, like a balloon. With a little more emphasis on the lateral and posterior part of the rib cage, simply because we're sitting here all day. This free-floating ribs, we can breathe here all day, but breathing back here is hard. And now we have the anchoring muscles anchoring the pelvis from below, while the decompression breath takes the axial skeleton, your rib cage, and your spine up, away from it, bigger, bigger, bigger. And that lengthens the spine. It restores the space in the torso so your spine can restore its effective length. When you restore the effective length of your spine, your natural curvatures come back. You get your lordotic curve of the neck and the lumbar spine. You get your kyphotic curve of the, but you can't have those curves if the spine has compressed. You can't restore and recreate them. You need, here's another quote that's really good. To find center, pull away from center.
I like that.
Wow.
Another thing I learned from Eric is, instead of this starting with the process of where's my pelvis in space? Oh my God, there's no way for you to measure that. I don't know what I'm doing. The anterior, instead, before you do that, do this. Get that upper torso that way, anchor from below, decompress above, open you up here, 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 here. And many times when that happens, you don't have to go about the pelvic tilting stuff.
Right.
It's a different approach.
Yeah.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
So good. And I do want to say real quick, anybody
So that's that decompression and tractioning of the spine that's happening, and it's very muscular. You know as well as anybody that when you breathe properly, your whole entire torso lights up like a Christmas tree.
Oh,
Yep,
it's
yeah.
like heaven on earth.
And the more you train it to stay there with all of those little muscles, you lengthen the abdominal cylinder. Instead of having this cylinder here that's like a crushed beer can, now that its cylinder has now been restored, equally pressurized all the way around. Now that allows your transverse abdominals to contract properly because it's not going to contract here.
Right.
And that allows your diaphragm to work properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like dominoes, right? Everything now starts to work the way it's supposed to. Now the hip flexors are now functioning properly. Now everything's starting to work the way it's supposed to. That's the unraveling and unwinding of the body that happens with foundation training and all those poses and postures that we do. There's always an anchor. There's always a decompression breath in every single exercise we do. Many of them have hinging, some of them don't. Some have spiraling, but there's always an anchor and there's always a decompression breath in everything that we do. And that's part of the process of how, we get people back into a healthier posture, a healthier movement system. And then they can take that and then go back to their Pilates, back to their personal training, whatever it is they may want to do.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think what Dan was going to say is for the people who are listening to the podcast just on audio, make sure if you're really interested in what Shane is talking about to go on our YouTube page because Shane is demonstrating these movements and breaking them down. So we'll put in the show notes the certain minutes correlating to what Shane is teaching so you guys can follow along on YouTube because this is,
Demonstrations.
It's brilliant. Thank you, Shane. Because it's like a double-edged sword here. It's in a good way with the visuals and audio.
Great analogies.
Yes.
I think this is all like we say all the time, like movement is medicine. This is what we're referring to. It's not just moving isn't enough because you're just redoing the same patterns. But being able to get into proper patterns where everything is everything, where the breathing aligns with your spine and where the hip hinge is opening everything up and where you, like you're saying, like you don't need to worry too much about your pelvis if you're in proper alignment and you're hinging properly and you're breathing properly, because it's gonna be there. And then your body is basically getting out of the way. And this is doing things in this manner is allowing you to get out of the way. And like exactly what I said before, breaking the patterns that are breaking you. Getting those patterns out of the way so that your body can heal itself, because the body will find the homeostasis. It will find where it needs to be, and it will heal itself over time, just by giving it the movements that it needs. So that's, I think.
If I could give any of your listeners, what do I do? Where do I start? Well, there's a lot of free videos on YouTube. If you type in foundation training, go explore them. If you're in acute pain, my suggestion as one of the instructors is probably don't start with the 12-minute video. Just start with some of the other stuff. And if you want to start somewhere, I would start and find the decompression tutorial that Eric gives Jesse. And he teaches like 2 or 3 minutes of how to do the decompression breath in a very basic manner. And then there's another video right under it on how to anchor. Just do that. You will be surprised of how well or how hard it is, but then how easy it becomes very quickly, but then also how it resonates and you're going to feel the work. That anchoring and decompression process is powerful. And it doesn't, you don't have to be an expert, but you do have to put some reps into it to get good. But you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be perfect. Just practice the anchoring, practice the decompression every day, multiple times a day until you feel like you get good at it, and then maybe dive into some of the deeper work. And I always look, the best way to learn this work is to find a certified instructor. Streaming is great. Videos are great. Books are great. DVDs are great. But if you really want to learn it from someone who has been to the certification, because then we can troubleshoot and find which exercises work best for your body. We can add some modifications in there if you don't have the mobility and strength. You're going to get more out of it quicker if you work with a certified instructor, in my opinion.
Of course.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like, give people the opportunity to learn from your mistakes, not have to figure them out on their own. You've got 10 years of
remember, find center, pull away from center.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fixes a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And I think Just kind of one other thing I really wanted to get into along those same lines. I think it's just an interesting conversation if you're up for it. We're talking about breaking patterns. I think a lot of the same stuff applies mentally. And I think a lot of people, especially when they're in pain, a lot, like it can be so debilitating, not just physically, but it really wears you down mentally, where you can't do a lot of stuff. Even proper breathing can be painful if your back hurts. And then if you're doing, like, you start going into a cycle, but then with poor breathing patterns, you can get into kind of depressive thoughts, and really spiral into different places. So I think the mental component plays such a role in it too. I think, someone like you've been in extreme pain, you've been in you have all these experiences, you've coached so many people. I think it would just be really interesting to hear some of your thoughts on and the role mindset plays and
mindset, how to approach it, where to start, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got that, and I was thinking about that a little while, and I was, if there's some ingredients to throw into the pot and how to be successful in getting out of chronic pain, the first thing that comes to mind is there's a lot of things that feed into it, right? You have the posture, you have the movement pattern breakdowns, you have the thought process, you also have the nutrition process. So as far as the movement part, number one thing I would say, focus on consistency. We've heard it all before, but it's true. One day you hurt, you don't want to do your exercises. Do them anyway. Find a way to do them. You got to do them. It's this long-term gain. This isn't like a microwave fix. This isn't, I'm going to do this one exercise and I'm fixed. No, it's, let me do this routine, this protocol, whatever it might be. Foundation training. I love Eldoa. Eldoa is great too. Whatever it is, you give them a program. Stick with it for 30 days. Give it 30 days. Give it 30 days. I mean, it's one of these things that is so frustrating when you have clients that they just want to do the next fanciest thing that they see. Consistency comes from that kind of boring, non-sexy, putting the work in every single day a little bit. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you have to kill yourself. So frequency and consistency are the keys, but intensity, if you're in pain, needs to be low. Sometimes you just need to go through the movements with very low intensity just to get through them. And you can amp up that intensity at any time down the road. But start by being frequent, consistent with your program, whatever it is, and don't do all of it. Don't do a million exercises. Focus on 2 or 3, and that's it. And just do them every day. Find a coach. Find someone who, not an expert, but someone who knows what they're doing, and have regular check-ins with them once a week, once every 2 weeks for accountability. For form check. I work with, my buddy and Josh and Charlotte, who I got into foundation training, and now he's a level 1 and 2 certified instructor, and he's killing it in Charlotte. But every now and then I'll have him check my form, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm out of form. You never know. I've been doing it forever. So frequency, consistency, keep the intensity low, keep it simple. In trying to find a way to be as positive as possible, even though your brain might not let that happen. I know that's harder. That's easier said than done, right?
Yes, it is.
I know these aren't big breakthrough statements that I'm giving anybody. Everyone's heard this before, but there's a reason why you've heard it before.
I was just going to say exactly. that we've got to keep ingraining it in people's heads.
It's the truth.
Yeah. Yes.
I would have never gotten myself out of chronic pain if I'd have moved on to a new program a week after starting. I stuck with the same boring exercises, quote unquote, I still do them. 9 years later, I still do them. And I still get the benefit out of them because I know they're working. And you just have to, there's that trust process. And I know this is going to work. It's a long tunnel, day by day. Don't get caught up. Don't get ahead. Meditation is great. My meditation is actually my FT practice.
That's great.
I have a hard time listening to meditation and I can't, my brain, I can't do it. My meditation is actually in movement or yoga or something where it's quiet, no distractions, maybe a little music playing. And I can kind of get inside myself, but not quiet, but I'm actually feeling things and I can tap into it mentally. That's how I meditate.
Okay.
That works for other people. Maybe, my fiance Deirdre, she actually does a meditation app where she lays down and she listens. She's been consistent with it. That helps her.
Yeah.
Find some sort of mental meditation where you can just kind of quiet the world. And that might help quiet the bad thoughts that are going on in your head with regards to whatever's happening with your pain, and just give it some time.
Yes.
Very
Absolutely.
patient. And I know that's the hardest thing in the world, but you have to. It's a long term. It's that drop in the bucket. But now we're doing a drop in the other bucket. And this is a positive bucket, and this is going to help heal me, but it's only a drop at a time, or $1 a day, or a penny a day.
Yeah, you build momentum.
I was just going to say that. That's how you build momentum.
Right? So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, this has been so fun.
We have to do another one of these, Shane. I mean, your wealth of knowledge, it's just, oh my gosh, it's really, it's inspiring, it's refreshing. So thank you so much. Is there anything like you want to leave our listeners with, or something that we didn't touch upon that you think you need to, get off your chest?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I'm a big demo guy. I like to feel things. So if you guys are up for it, I'm going to take you guys, we have a little time, it looks like, left. Take you through a couple minutes of seated decompression. Because look, sometimes we're stuck in a chair. You're in an airplane flying across the country. You're driving, whatever. You're in a conference call.
Yeah.
Chair. What can you do to pull away from center?
Yes.
So you guys are sitting right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anybody that watches this can follow along. Not supposed to teach foundation training. I can teach it live. We can't teach it taped. So, but we're live. So we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
Love it.
In a chair too. A couple things that happen that break us down in a chair that we try to teach and convey with foundation training is this chronic internal shoulder rotation of wearing your arms in front of you. Oh, but I have a standing desk. Oh, I don't care. You're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Standing is not the key. It helps. But that internal shoulder rotation that narrows the width across the chest caves in, it collapses down into your pelvis, the abdominals shorten, the pecs shorten, your SCM shorten, and eventually your head comes right out in front of your body. Now the back of your skull is compressing into your neck. And that little triangle in the back of your neck called your suboccipital triangle is where your vagus nerve comes up through. There's a lot of stuff, important things that happen there, and you're compressing here. You're compressing here. You're literally imploding on yourself. The other thing that happens as the upper body collapses into the pelvic bowl, the hips have to make room for this weight. So they externally rotate. A little bit, millimeter. Now the iliums are being pulled away from center. Adductors are being twisted out. Hamstrings twisted out. So internal rotation of the shoulders, external rotation of the hips messes a lot of people up, and the spine just compresses. So one way that you can help unwind this frequently throughout the day is to simply get off your backrest, sit up on the edge of your chair. Go ahead. Make sure your feet are under your knees. And all you're going to do, you don't have to do this, but I like to take the feet and point them in a little bit. It's almost like I feel like my knees are converging to center. They're not touching, but they're not out here. They have this little bit of tension. You could probably already start to feel some things working here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can feel it.
So I'm literally feeling that work. I'm sitting up tall. Now what I want you to do is take your finger and take your chin and start to just push it back until you feel a little length at the base of that neck. Now, what that did is that helped get these SCM muscles a little bit more activated on the side of the neck. And I want you to think chest up, chin up, let the chin pull back. Now maintain all of that and bring your eyes down to the horizon. And now you feel that good length through your spine. You're going to take your hands and you're just going to place them on your belly with your elbows wide. If you look left and right, it looks like your arms are coming out your earlobes. Perfect. Now, decompression breathing. Take a big breath in through your nose so that you feel the rib cage expand laterally. Maintain that width as you exhale slow. Don't let it come back in and don't collapse back down. And every breath in, get a little bit bigger in the sides of the rib cage. Maintain that as you exhale and you start to feel the abdominals wrap underneath of you all the way into your back. Give me 5 more breaths like that. Everything expands out and up on the breath in. Maintain it as you engage your abdominals on the breath out. Knees pulling the center. Base of the skull lengthening, back and up the whole time. You got 2 more breaths. Probably got some fatigue happening. Hang in there. Home stretch. Keep working. People with neck pain, if you take your head, you can turn it to the left and palpate that SCM. See if you can feel it. Take a breath and exhale and maintain that contraction. Now turn your head the other way. Feel the SCM muscle. Take a breath. Feel it contract and keep it there as you exhale. Eyes back to center. Now you hinge as the knees stay in. Let the torso come forward as you hinge at the hip joint. Bring the arms out beside you. Open your palms. Keep the knees working the center. And very gently and slow, float the hands in front. Don't pull. Your chest is up. Your chin is in. The fingers are almost touching. All 10 fingers touch in front of the chest in a circle. Pull the chin in. Give me a big breath to the back of the ribs. Let the elbows bend a little. And now elevate. Feel your armpits kind of lift up away from your hips. And freeze right there. Pull the knees to center. Pull the chin back. 5 final breaths, expanding the posterior rib cage. The inhale makes it wide. Exhale for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. You got 2 breaths to finish it off. Chin back, armpits lifting off of your hips. 5 seconds to go. Final breath. And when you finish that exhale, come right on out of that and shake it off.
I'm shaking.
Yeah,
I mean, you did it right.
Feels good. That feels really good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sweating a little bit too.
Can
Yeah,
you
the
did you
tension
feel
in
a little bit of the anchor and
Yeah,
decompression?
absolutely, yeah.
Yes,
And
and
one good pop in there too. It was great.
I was just gonna say, as soon as my neck turned each
I
way.
just saved some money on a chiropractic at
Oh.
There you go.
Oh my God, that was
Yeah.
fabulous. Thank you for that demonstration. That's beautiful. And I'm gonna do this every day. I'm glad that we have it on video now.
If you're stuck in a chair, that's something that you can do to help that spine stay long.
Absolutely,
feels
Shane.
great.
Oh my gosh, we can't thank you enough for this. This is fabulous. Where can people find you? Do you have a website? Is obviously maybe give your social media handles for people to follow along to these.
Great Instagram page that everybody should be following.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I do most of my posts on Instagram.
Great.
It's at Coach Shane C.
Perfect.
That's simple. My name is Shane Cuppett. You type that in, you'll find it. I'm not on Facebook much. My Instagram transfers over to Facebook, like you connect them. And my website, I have a website. It's turningpointfitness.com. Turning Point is ptfitness.com. You can go on there and check out my story, read about how I got out of pain. And then I got a video library in there. If you'd like to subscribe for $12 a month, you get a lot of these workouts. I don't teach foundation training on my website, but I demonstrate the videos as like a warm up and a cool down. But if you want to learn foundation training, I only teach that privately.
Sure.
I find that's the best way I can teach it properly. I don't teach it through videos. You have to make a private appointment, but I do suggest an FT warm up and an FT cool down before and after all my workouts, obviously for the same reasons that we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's incredible.
That's great.
Thank you, Shane. Well, we appreciate you being on this episode, and we certainly went deep on a lot of things. So thank you, Shane.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. Nice chatting with you, and good job on that seated decompression.